guys today. Going to get this thing rolling the right way. Um, One of the things I wanted to cover with you guys is we're going to have Elijah Crujo on here going over the critical period concept today, and that could be some really special stuff. As I'm getting my leaderboards, it's like I'm here at the news desk.
Dustin's
Like the
reminding
old,
us to record this.
huh?
Dustin's reminding us to record this call. I think it is
Yeah.
recorded, Dustin.
Yes, I am recording it right now. So if it does not get recorded, blame my Zoom session, whatever skills. But it says it's recording, so I'm gonna trust that it is. So we shall see. Um, but wanted to start out with leaderboards. But hey, anybody out there that has a question, here's what I want you to do in personal production. I'm just gonna do this off the cuff here a little bit. You've got a key leader or you direct to myself that you're a part of their organization. I want you to text them any personal production questions you've got. And key leaders, you filter through those, see those that need to be addressed on this call, and you send it over to me during this call. Me and Elijah is going to make sure that we get you guys taken care of. Is that fair enough?
We love
Hey,
that.
the reason some of you guys might want to listen to Elijah Carujo, and I'm just saying this because the numbers just be the numbers. He wrote 45,000 in personal production in the month of September. He deposited over $21,000 in his bank account. And we mention income because we realize in this business, income equals impact. What that means is a lot of families got helped by the efforts and the work that he put in. A lot of families now have protection for their homes that they didn't have before because young Elijah went out and run appointments on them. So very important stuff to remember there, guys. And you're in business. You're in business because you're looking for a result. You're looking for a result for you and your family. And I'm just telling you guys, we've got a special producer on the call today to help anybody out there get to where they want to get to financially. So make sure you start filling up those texts, and key leaders, y'all start sending them to me after you collect those up. I appreciate it. All right, let's get into our leaderboards this past week. Bear with me. I've not had time to study these very much, but I am going to do my best. We've got the two app count leaders. Number two on the leaderboard for app count submit this past week, Jordan Gillum. Way to go, Jordan. 10 applications this past week, buddy. That is strong on the app count submit leaderboard. Way to go. Number one, no stranger to an app count leaderboard. I'm telling you that. Miss Laura Davis, always killing it. 11 applications this past week. Way to go, Miss Laura Davis. Way to go, Jordan Gillum. Hey, that's 10 and 11 applications in a week, folks. That's strong business. If you're doing that, you're helping a lot of families and making a huge impact. Way to go, ladies. Super proud of you. Everybody should strive to be in that realm of the business. That is huge. Also wanted to celebrate our top producers of the week. I tell you what, it's bad when you get older like me because you can't even read your own leaderboards. So I need some prescription glasses, Val. Just want you to know, buddy, it's getting bad on me over here. So get into the top four right here. We've got Mr. Elijah Carujo, $5,215.32 on 5 applications. Way to go, buddy. Super strong week for you. Number 3 on the leaderboards this past week, Miss Jordan Gillum, 8,347 this past week. Oh, nice. I'm getting all kinds of information as we're doing this. This is good stuff. It's like right running a news desk at breaking news at dawn or something. So this is awesome. Miss Laura Davis coming into number 2 spot, 8,858 in premium. Way to go, Laura Davis. That's awesome, girl. 8,858 in premium. Number 1 on our leaderboard, we were talking about him earlier because we know some special things are coming. Mr. DJ Robinson himself, guys, 11,481 in premium. Brand new agent out in Los Angeles, California. He's not only running California, but he's running Virginia, and he may be running someplace else new here pretty soon. Who knows, right? So I know Elijah and me's got him on our brain because that guy's going to be special here. Way to go, DJ Robinson. Brand new agent, guys, 11,481 in premium. That is some good stuff. Now we got STPs for the week. Me and Jared Gillum, we both decided to go out and share this plan more than 10 times with people we care about. Way to go, Jared. And I actually shared the plan too, buddy. So way to go, both of us. Yay, us. Recruits this past week, guys. We also had a lot of brand new contracts. Val Zarn, Dustin Hensley, myself, me and Miss Tina. Jeffrey Miller and Jared Gillum tied for the top spot at 2 apiece. Way to go, everybody in the organization on that right there, which leads us to a brand new writer, Mr. Keenan Roop. Way to go, Keenan. Super proud of you, buddy. That is awesome. Always leads us to good stuff when we're going out and finding the right people. Mr. Keenan Roop, $1,492 in submitted premium as a brand new agent. And Keenan, you can do it once. Hey, it's what a mentor told me years ago. You can do it 1,000 times. And guess what? I did. So I kept doing it. So I didn't stop there. I actually did it over 1,000 times. So that's awesome. So way to go, buddy. I know you can do it and you can get it going in the right direction. Also, love bragging about our groups of the week. And Tina, there we go. Our number one group of the week. Well, here, I'll give you number two. Number two group of the week is the Reynolds Organization. Way to go, Reynolds Organization, with just over 13,632 in premium. Way to go, Reynolds Organization. Number two organization this past week, always keeping it strong. And just really appreciate you guys keeping that legacy up and keeping that legacy going. The number one group for the week is the Gillum Organization at $17,787.96. So proud of that Gillum Organization. They are working their tail off to grow every week and every day right now. And all the work that Jordan and Jared's putting in starting to really pay off. Way to go, Gillum Group. Number one group, 17,787 this past week. Strong week, Gillum Organization. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Love seeing more of our key leaders up there. Love to see it every week, getting those key leaders up there. And let me see, though. We may have had another group over 10,000. Nope. I'm blind, but that's where we're at. So, oh, I have reading glasses. I promise, folks. Problem is I can't find them. So we all got issues, and that's my issue right now. So I will be able to find them here pretty soon, hopefully. So. All right. I think that's all I got. Tina, do you have any Tina tips of the week that you were going to go over? I'm going to unmute you if I can find you, buddy. There you are.
Okay, guys, I want to just remind everyone to let me know if you have an agent writing in a different state than you normally have people writing in. Just send me an email, let me know. If they're going to buy leads in a new state, I do need to know about it to make sure we got a license there, and you'll need to make sure you have a license there. Also, I want to remind everyone to check their pending daily, because that's how you get paid quicker. New agents especially, check that pending every single day. Also, you can call the carrier if you need help on illustrations or help on really anything about your pending. They can tell you exactly what they need and how to submit that.
Yeah, it's one of the keys tips Tina's giving you guys right there is check your pending daily. Like one of the things me and my wife did when we first started in the business, we were like, I checked it at like 9:30 a.m. in the morning, and then I checked it again at 3. And I always ask the underwriter this same question. I was like, Tina, is there anything that I need to do on my end to help this family go ahead and get it approved? I asked that. And I just asked that, and guess what? People would give me the right answers, and all those little underwriters would get to know me, and the more they knew me, the more my business seemed to get approved and approved quicker. And I was really always very nice to them because I realized being rude to them would not help anything. And so just my little Chris tips of the week for that. Anything else on that, Tina?
Well, also, if they're behind at the carrier level and you call, that'll kind of bump your case back up to the front. The more you ask about it, the quicker it will get seen about and checked on.
Literally so
Yeah.
true. So true.
We find that to be the case, Tina. The people that are active with that, they get it. And then also something here is a great tip. If you get an email from a carrier and they're missing a little piece of information, well, if you don't get it back to them, your case is never getting approved. So, hey, if I got an email from a carrier, I am Johnny on the spot. Like I was an expert at answering those emails. So just make sure you're good at that. And because we realized we found a lot of people get their stuff approved so much quicker just by follow up and follow through. That's a key to this business.
Yep.
Just follow up and follow
That's
through.
all I got.
Okay. Well, thank you, Miss Tina. Appreciate all you do for all of us out there in our symmetry world. And Barry Davis also did 10 or more STPs this last week. Another breaking news flash. I think Barry does it every week. Way to go, Barry. Super proud of you, buddy. It's every week Barry's on there. I like it, man. That's good. All right. So let's see. We got the man of the hour, Elijah. All right.
Hey,
I think I already, yeah, you're still unmuted. So,
yes,
buddy,
sir.
I know you've been covering too. We were going to talk briefly about, hey, here's what we got here, folks. We got question-based selling. Ask the right questions. You can really learn a lot about how to help people. And Elijah, just speak briefly to the book. I know you've been covering that a little bit, and then we'll get started into some of your stuff. But anything you want to cover about the book?
Yeah, I got some notes here. Got a little bit.
I like it, man. I like
I'm
it.
going to cover the main highlights that the main thing that I like to do is take what we're reading and then figure out how can we apply this to what we do every day. And there's a lot that can be learned. And so I'm starting in part 2, the chapter 6, if you're tracking. And so the basis of this is leveraging the most powerful sales tools. And the takeaway that I've got is the most powerful sales tool is what the author describes as conversational layering. Essentially, what conversational layering is a strategic conversation, but it's also a strategic conversation that is natural. It's not something that you're trying to manipulate the situation or employ funky persuasive sales tactics, nothing like that. It's a natural conversation, but it's strategic because not everybody knows how to have a natural conversation. Some people, it just doesn't come naturally to them. They've never done it before. And so there's a couple things. The basis of conversational layering is strategic questions. And those strategic questions help you build a relationship with that person. And so the core value number 1 here at Symmetry is relationships matter, people come first. And not just in the people that we're helping and also the people that we're working with, but the way that you build a relationship with somebody, or I would dare say, I'll backtrack a little bit. The people who sell the most here, I would say build the most relationships with their clients. I know for me, if I go into my phone and I type in contacts client, there's literally hundreds of names in there. And I build a relationship with every person that I cover because I'm not a quoting generator. And I would hope that none of you guys are either. And so when it comes to conversational layering, he has this story where he's playing golf with a guy named Bud. And Bud says he's the best salesman on the East Coast. And when the author asks him why, when Thomas asks him why, he says, because I build the best relationships. And then when he asks Bud, how do you build the best relationships? Bud looks like a deer in headlights. He doesn't have an answer. And so he has this really great concept, but conversational layering is the how-to when it comes to building relationships. And so I was working with the new agent and they were telling me we were going over like what went wrong during a couple appointments. And the big thing that 3 or 4 people said was building connection. And it's true, like that's difficult, especially right now when 100% of my appointments are taking place over Zoom. And so I wrote 45 grand last month. All of that was over Zoom. I didn't run a single appointment in person. And it's hard to build a relationship with somebody when I'm in Virginia and they're up in New Jersey or Delaware or the backwoods of North Carolina. Like I'm running appointments all over the place. The way that I build relationships that leads to writing an application and a family being protected and me being paid is the types of questions that I'm asking. And so I've got a couple. I drew a little, what I want you guys to do if you're taking notes is to draw a little doodle, because this will help you kind of visualize the power of questions. So I've got I don't know if you guys can see this, but I drew basically like a cliff. So draw a cliff side, draw a chasm in the middle, and then draw another cliff side. On the left side, we have their needs, the client's need. On the right-hand side, we have your value. So the value that we're providing as salespeople, I'm really excited that we're not working for a company that sells hair care shampoo or essential oils or kitchen knives. Like, we're selling something that is super beneficial to the people that we're sitting with. We literally sell a product, and I use the word sell very loosely because the people that I deal with are asking for what I have. I've got a stack of leads. These are all requests of people who've said, hey, we want mortgage protection or life insurance. Can you help us qualify for it? And so the stuff that we're selling is super, super important. And so there's not hard to create the value, but in that chasm at the top, put trust and relationship. Trust and relationship is in the chasm. And then also beneath that in the chasm as well, I wrote questions to make your prospect engage. Questions to make your prospect engage. So we have their needs, we have our value, and in the space between the two to get our client to see the value for their need, our trust and relationships and questions to make your prospect engage. I've had times where I've called a client and I'm trying to book the appointment and they're just not conversing with me. They're giving me yes or no answers to everything. I'll ask them what made them send in the form, for example, and they're like, yes. I'm like, hold up, that doesn't make any sense. And so you have to be strategic. The conversational layering is the recipe for asking questions that lead to your prospect engaging. And by engaging, I mean booking an appointment with you, and then that appointment leading to filling out the application. And so to secure a commitment, this is a quote I took from the book. To secure a commitment, you must first present a solution, but to present solutions, you have to uncover a need. You cannot uncover a need without asking questions. So I've got a couple questions that I ask in every single appointment that if you guys start asking these, and if you're not, you're going to write applications by doing this. So the first, Keenan's fired up. I see him. When I booked the appointment, so I got the lead, right? I verify the info. I'm not going to go through all the nuts and bolts of the phone script, but the first main question that I ask that I don't hear very many people asking is, after I book the appointment, I've verified the info, I've booked the appointment. The way that I lock it down and ensure that my show ratio is not going to be 40% that week is I ask them, most importantly, this client's Jeanette. Most importantly, Jeanette, when you had filled this out and sent it in, what was the primary concern you had for you and your husband? And then I pause for a second, let it sit in there, and then I say, what was it you were looking for this coverage to do for you guys? So what was the primary concern you guys had when you sent this in? What was it you were looking for this coverage to do? Doing that is an open-ended question that allows the prospect to engage. I'm not asking a yes or no or either or question. I'm asking them, why did they send this in? Because I'm a busy guy, and I genuinely don't book appointments with people who say, we just want to know how much it cost. I won't book it. I won't run it. I won't put them in my calendar if they give me an answer like that when I ask that question. And so when I ask that question, it leads to something that sounds like this. Jeanette's like, well, we got that when we first moved in, and got to talk with my husband, and we just want to know that if something happens to either one of us, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We want to know that the house is going to be taken care of for our family. That is a strong answer to a strong question. And so you can't be upset if you get, the way Grant would describe it is weak ass answers to weak ass questions. So you have to ask powerful questions in order to get your client to engage. So I ask them that because what that does, here's the reason I ask. One, it gives me an idea of how, what's the word? How serious is this client? Did they just fill this out because they got 20 of them? Or did they fill it out because they're ready to get coverage? I ask that question when I'm working bonus leads, whether they're 3A and 6 months old, or A leads that I got a week ago that they filled out 2 weeks ago. Or even internet leads. I ask internet leads. Internet leads are freaking awesome. If you're not getting them, you should. But I ask that, and I talk with them. a little bit there. So when I'm booking an appointment, a Zoom appointment, I'm on the phone with these guys for about 8 minutes sometimes about 6, but I'm not on and off the phone very long. And if they're in a rush, like if I get them when they're at work and they're like, "Can you call me back later?" I'm like, "Yeah." So when would be a better time to call? And I don't rush to book it because then I'm going to end up getting no-showed. So that's the first question I ask. When I'm running the appointment, the next question I ask is, so I asked that same question I asked on the phone. I ask it again, actually, when I'm going through the presentation, and I'm in the my role and purpose in the needs analysis section. I ask that same question again. So I don't want to assume here, guys, this is a very personalized program. And so I don't want to show you something that's not necessary to you. And so when you guys got this, what was it you were looking for this coverage to do for you guys? And so they pretty much reiterate what they told me on the phone. And then I ask them again, okay, so Jeanette, what would it look like for you if something were to have happened to your husband 2 weeks ago? What would it look like for you if something were to have happened to your husband 2 weeks ago? And so it's not a yes or no question. I'm not asking something like, do you need this or can you afford it or something like that. I asked the same question again. You notice I'm asking the stuff again to the husband. So Mr. Wright, what would it look like for you if something were to have happened to Jeanette 2 weeks ago? Would you be able to keep the house? Would you have to sell it? Would you be able to manage? Because the reality is not everybody who fills this out needs mortgage protection. They don't. Now, they all may want it because it's not just a send this in and win a free trip for a survey. It's pretty straightforward how it explains it. I've talked to people who, after I ask that question, I find out they've got $1 million in life insurance, and really mortgage protection is a luxury. They want it to have cushion. And I write business on people like that all day long. But what it does is it helps me figure out and personalize the options I'm showing them, because they may need more coverage on the wife than they do the husband, or vice versa. And so those are the two main questions I ask. And so when you look at that chasm, you see how there's a distance between their needs and your value. If you're not presenting value through the questions that you ask, that chasm is going to end with them saying something like, "We need to think about it," or "Can we call you back next week?" If you get an answer like that, it's due to you not bringing enough value, or also the client may not be serious about it. That's true. Or the questions you're asking aren't, they're not in such a way that they're engaging. And so when I'm reading this book, the question-based selling, the cool part is I'm not a salesman. I suck at sales. I don't like the idea of persuading and like getting them on your side and all convincing and stuff like that. No, I'm trying to sort. And so one of the things that I've learned through reading this book too, that's been reiterated, is amateurs try to convince and sell. Professionals are sorting. And so when it comes to question-based selling, you're sorting the people who are interested and need this. And if so, you're sorting them even further. If they need it, what kind of product are you going to sort them with? And so, the other thing too is when it comes to relationships, you can't just assume that person is down to talk to you right away. And so you got to be conversational in knowing what questions to not ask as well. So when I call somebody and I'm booking an appointment, I am not asking them, "How are you doing today, sir? Are you having a good day?" That's a great way to get hung up on. So I don't. Okay. I ask him, "Do you remember filling that out?" Or "Is this your address?" I mean, I know it's their address, but stuff like that. And so when you ask questions like that versus calling and just portraying a bunch of credibility, you're going to get shut down if you're not asking the right questions. And so if you are getting hung up on over and over again in the same spot, you might need to go and look at not only the questions you're asking, but also how are you asking them. And so just look at that. And there was another thing I wanted to hit on that I thought was really cool that he said. Okay. So I got this book on Kindle. And so this is Secret 49. I thought was really neat. He says, credibility is the basis for every relationship. The more you have, the more your prospects will want to engage. And so there's a lot of little things you can do in all of the touch points of contact you have with your client to build credibility. Everything from having an email signature to looking professional when you run a Zoom appointment, to making sure your equipment is working, to making sure your presentation is clean. And so there's a lot that I do because I view myself as a professional that builds credibility. That credibility leads to me being able to actually provide value through the presentation. And the presentation is directed by questions, and the questions line up right. So like, I'm not calling them and I get their name and then I'm asking them, sir, what did you fill this out for? I've built credibility by first verifying their information. Then I let them know, hey, this is what my job is. This is why I'm calling. What time works for, like, what time do you get off work? And then I ask, okay, what was the main concern? And so you got to make sure you're organized with it, because if you just jump right into it and they don't even know your name or why you're calling, you think they're going to tell you why they filled out a form pertaining to life insurance? Heck no. You got to build credibility before your questions will actually make sense. And so the diagram that I drew with the chasm was my main takeaway from chapter 6. And if you want some training on like really like something outside of the book too, because the book has great questions. This is just kind of sales, like a broad scope of sales. If you wanted to fine tune it, Cicely Newsom did a training a few weeks back on a national call about like just some banging questions she asks. And so highly recommend you go through that. But that's what I got, Chris, on the book of the month.
Man, I like it, dude. Yeah, I'm with you. Question-based spelling. So I think I read it first time like 12 years ago. One of my mentors had suggested it to me at the time, and it's something that added so much value because, I found myself a lot of times in my career making statements, and statements didn't help anybody, but questions certainly did. And I love what you said. It was strategic questions help you build a relationship with people. Whether, and guys, it's twofold. It's whether it's helping a client, and finding out what they're looking to do for their family, or it's helping a new agent. You asking them questions. One of the most popular questions I ask a new agent when I'm working with them is like, what are you looking to get out of Symmetry Financial? You with me? That's a great question, because guess what? That answer can now give you a way to help that person, right? Right? It's just it. I mean, what we do in building a business and what we do in personal production in the field here, guys, is such a correlation. It's just we're helping people with different capacities of it. And it's the, quality of questions that you ask will lead to your quality of life, right? And so, so I just, kudos to you on that. Great book breakdown, buddy. So here's what I want to do to prime the brain a little bit before we get right into the segment. Val Zarn, one of our key leaders, had some questions for you, and I was going to go over these with you to see where you're at with this. And this will prime the brain, because we're going to get into critical period concept, which I think is one of the certainly best ways a lot of you guys can go out. Because Elijah, I'll ask you this: critical period concept, which is a concept of us basically taking a mortgage of $250,000 or $350,000 or $100,000, and we're probably getting that client $50,000 or $30,000 worth of coverage, right? Because we realize here's a concept, a wraparound of that concept is this. I realized out in the field that people weren't losing the homes because they couldn't come up with $250,000 once their spouse passed away. How they were losing their homes is because they couldn't come up with the $1,200 a month to pay their monthly mortgage payment. So realize that people don't lose the home because they don't have the full coverage paid off. They come of it because they lose it because they can't pay the monthly mortgage payment. Realize that. If your brain is primed with that, you're going to be able to receive what Elijah is going to train you here in a minute. And first, so Val had some questions for you over numbers, because I think I love starting out with the nerdy part of the business, because that certainly relies on it. Do you know, Elijah, and I know I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't ask you this ahead of time, month of September, do you know how many appointments a week you are averaging?
Yeah, I was averaging sitting 16 to 17 or 16 to 18 within that sitting.
Yeah. So 16 to 19 appointments a week, sitting with Zoom session appointments a week. These aren't telesales, and none of these were in person, right? Just to clarify.
I don't run any appointments over the phone.
Yeah, he runs so all you out there, because one of the most common things I'll hear is, well, I can't get people to run Zoom sessions or whatever. And it's like, I promise you some tips today that we're going to be able to give you. What would you say to a person while I'm thinking about that part? I can't get people on Zoom.
I would
Can't
say
get people. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say why. I help people who are, I helped a lady who was 84 years old, who did not have a computer, who all she had was a smartphone and an email. And I was able to she was even able to e-sign that thing while we're on Zoom from her smartphone. The only
Yep.
time you ever can't do a Zoom is if they have a flip phone and no computer. And I ask them, do you have an email? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how do you check your email? If they have an ability to check their email, they have the same ability to get on Zoom.
You know where we learned that from? Grant Reynolds.
Yep. And there are people who don't have an email. It happens.
But it's a rare percentage.
So rare, man. So rare.
Yeah. So give them that question again. Y'all write this down. Remember, if you think you're having trouble with the Zoom, go back to that one little thing you just said about the email, because that will eliminate it.
Yeah. If a client's like, "Oh, I can't do Zoom," I'm like, "Well, no worries. It's super simple, Jeanette. What do you check your email on normally?" "Oh, my iPad." "Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna send you an email. Are you able to check your email while I've got you on the phone?" Great. We said about 3:00 tomorrow. So I'm sending this Google Calendar invite because I synced Zoom with Google Calendar. Super easy. You don't have to do that. You can literally create a Zoom link and send it to them. I would send them the Zoom link while I got on the phone and verify the time. And I say, look, all you got to do is tomorrow, just click that link and you'll be able to see me and hear me just fine. The password is your phone number. Simple as that.
Boom. Hey, folks, I'm telling you, you get good at that right there, and you teach people to get good at that right there, your world will change, because Zoom is a way to build connection, because you're not only doing the verbal, but you also have the visual. And
Yeah.
right, and communication is only like 7 or 8% verbal. You with me? That's the reason we lose so much if we're not doing a Zoom session with our clients. So
now, I'm having to call a lot of these people like right as the appointment, because some people will hop on right there. You'll see them in the waiting room, but sometimes they're struggling, and I know they're struggling because it's been 4 or 5 minutes and they're still not on. And I'll call them and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm trying to do this. I can't figure it out." Come to find out, they need to download the app. Like if they're doing it from a smartphone, you can't just click the link. You got to download the app, but it's free. And so I just walk them through downloading it. And then sometimes they'll click on and they can't hear me. And I'm like, well, you got to dial in with using internet audio. And so you just hit the little enable audio button and enable video, and then you can see me just fine.
Yep.
And I do that all day long.
You know, and you know what I think too, just hearing you, I think that would endear me to you, because you're leading me through a process to help me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, they love it. I get people who call me a couple days later. They're like, "Yeah, I use Zoom after you showed me for this church meeting I got." And it's fun because like a lot of times this is their first time using Zoom, and then they'll use it again for other stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, you actually got them out of their comfort zone and added even more value, because now they're going to attend a church service they didn't see before, or they're going to do something else, or they're going to see grandkids that they never saw before because they're, you know, the COVID, because they're doing it and doing it right, and you got them out of their comfort zone, but you did it in a way that was going to be easy for them. How do you check your email? Yeah. Right? That's the question, folks. How do you check your email? And then utilize that as a resource to help that family. So love it, buddy. So remember, he's averaging 16 to 19 Zoom session appointments a week. So one of our key tips that I want you to take away from this, you're not going to be able to have that same success if you're running, would you say, Elijah, 5 Zoom session appointments a week?
Wait, ask that question one more time.
Like, you know, people that are wanting your type of results, but they're running 5 Zoom session appointments a week, they're going to be able to get there?
Not a chance, man. I was tracking my numbers because I was on Lee Jedlika's call last Friday, and I've averaged over the last 8 weeks, 10 grand a week in premium average.
Nice.
And the way that you may not need to write 10 grand a week in premium. Casey and Brandon say, hey, you just need to hit 5, at least 5. And then that way you're running 2 sides. I saw that as like, that's what the average agent's doing. And so I really wanted to hit 10 grand in premium from the income standpoint. I'm getting married next spring, and I viewed this as, if we have the ability to make as much money as we want to make, what would it take for me to double what I'm doing? And activity was the simplest solution.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, me and you were on a call the other night, and it's like, you know, I see this person here, and if they would just do more, if they would just do more, a lot of you are doing the right things. The key, I would just say, is like, you know, one of our key components of being successful here at Symmetry Financial is really understanding first one number. How many people do you sit with a week and give a presentation with via Zoom? And if the number is less than 15, I would just encourage you to change that number to 15 if you're full time. If you're part time, I would encourage you to get to 8, and just watch your world change. Watch your world change. I mean, it's going to be amazing what this business will do for you, how fulfilled you will feel, how engaged you will feel, because you'll be more committed. And the pursuit of happiness is always us striving to be our best. Where we feel worst about ourselves is when we know we're not giving it our all, and we follow it up by not giving it our all. Does that make sense? And it's like, and it's what I love about you. You're fully engaged. Dials, contacts, appointments. Do you know your average over the month of September for dials per week?
Let me flip to it. So for September, I was averaging about 400 dials a week.
Okay.
Some weeks were a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like there was a couple weeks I hit over 500. There was a couple weeks I got it done doing like 260, 270.
Yep.
But you're not going to write 10 grand in premium making 150 dials or even 250, especially if you're new, because that learning curve is solved by dialing more. And so if you're new, and by new, I mean, if you're in your first 90 days or your first 3 months, I mean, there shouldn't be, if you want to make this a living, there shouldn't be a week that you're doing less than 600 dials.
Yeah.
No matter what lead class.
Yep.
Whether you're 50 centers or if you're on 5As. Now, for me, my average to book the appointments I needed, I was dialing, to break it down from a time standpoint too, I was dialing somewhere between 6 and 8 hours per week. I would dial whenever I needed appointments. I didn't just stop dialing on Tuesday. I also ran appointments Monday through Friday, every day. And so I would make the average about 400, a little bit over 400 dials. I would invest around, September was a big month. So I was investing more than what I used to. I was investing around 500 a week in leads. Some weeks more. There was a couple weeks, there was one week I texted you, Chris. I was like, dang, this lead bill just like, whoa, I'm in the big leagues now. I dropped $1,300 on leads one week for 1 week. And that wasn't for the whole month. I invested again the following week. It wasn't 1,300, but I realized I needed something to scare me and kickstart me to ensure I wasn't gonna wimp out of not running 16 or 17 appointments. If I dropped $1,300 on leads, I knew I wasn't gonna be like, oh, I don't need a dial. Like, shoot, I'm on the hook for $1,300 for 1 week, dude. And so if you're looking for something to scare you and throw you outside of your comfort zone, that is the equivalent of diving in the deep end when you don't know how to swim. You'll figure that out real quick. And so I did that a couple times. The average though was about 500 a week in leads. And that may scare you. That may be like, yo, this is insane. But if you call those people, that's actually a pretty small lead investment when you look at the profit margins on that. And so lead class, I get people who ask me all the time, what are your favorite leads? What leads are you working? Primarily right now, I'm working A leads.
Yep.
I never recommend that for brand new people because you're not skilled enough and you'll go broke. But if you've been here a while, you've written some applications, talked to your upline about it. My favorite lead class though are 5As. Favorite lead class. The reason being is 5As are A leads that another agent was too lazy to work. And so I'll call them. These are a stack of 5As. They're a little bit older, but the question I ask these people, I ask a little bit of a different question when I'm working 5As, is after I verify the info, I simply ask them, has anybody helped you with that yet? If they ever say no, I always book the appointment, always. If they say, yeah, they helped me a couple weeks ago, I'm like, cool. And I go through with basically trying to book an appointment to get them a better coverage. And so I'm primarily working 5As and A leads, but I only worked bonus leads from January to May of this year, only exclusively. I didn't take a single A lead until June.
And I want to point that out, folks. So all you out there that are on bonus leads, keep in mind, he was wildly profitable from January to May, January to June, where he worked nothing but bonus leads. And it got him really good at this business to go out and really take advantage of the full-time effort that he's kicking with now. So just realize he was top 3 in our organization production, not taking an A lead. So you know what I mean? And now he's number 1 overall because he just added more of that in there. What's your show rate? What's your average show rate right now?
Yeah. My show rate, let me look up last week's actually. Last week was a weird week. I'll be real with you guys. My show rate was 64%. Last week was a weird week in that I got my butt kicked. I called you, Chris, about it. The cool part is
you wrote 5,000 on a butt kicking. So
I know that's what's cool. And so I booked 14 just for full transparency, and I sat with 9. Yep. And so my show ratio was 64%. And I ended up writing like, I think 5 apps or something like that. And, but that was a low week. My show ratio doing the Google Calendar, Zoom appointments thing, I mean, it's over 80%. I mean, I booked 10 appointments, 8 of them show up, and the 2 that don't, I reschedule.
Yeah.
So it's pretty stinking good, the show ratio.
I love it. So I think we already covered appointment tie down, close rate. Do you know what close ratio you're running on as far as your leads to applications?
Yeah. If I had to guesstimate, if I talk to, I don't have an exact number, unfortunately, but if I talked to 10 people, I'm probably writing 7 or 8 applications.
Yeah.
It's rare that I get.
What about A leads to applications? Do you know that number?
Oh man, it's even better. I mean, it's probably 90 or 95%.
Yeah.
On A leads. Now, another thing that you guys should know is like if I'm sitting on 16 to 18 appointments per week, I'm booking like 22 to 25. And if you're new, you're going to want to book a lot more than that, just because people are going to no-show you and that sort of thing. And so I overcompensate so that it's predictable week in and week out.
In my biggest years, and I want to reiterate what he's saying right there, my biggest years of personal production, I would always average between 20 and 23 booked appointments a week to set with 15. 15 or more. Does that make sense? That's when I was running between 15 and 20 appointments a week. And but that was huge because I realized I was always going to have no-shows. I wasn't trying to eliminate no-shows, but what I was doing is playing a smart percentage based on the business that was beholden me. And some weeks, hey, got lucky. Everybody showed up. Great. But I'm just saying, I really hear where he's at there. Val had a real quick question here. Close rate on first appointment. I wouldn't think you're doing callbacks. I would think the people you're closing the appointment you're running them on, correct?
I'm a one-sit closer. And
I am too. And if anybody out there, I'm going to say this before you go any further. If you're training your people to do more than one sit to close somebody, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You are doing it wrong, and you're going to hurt your agents and you're going to hurt your clients.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons I don't do it. One, you create more work for yourself. You're running 2 appointments to get the same result. You're either going to get the app or you're going to get to think about it. And I'd rather do that in one sit than block off multiple times. Another thing too is if you sit with a family on Monday and they give you to think about it and you want to follow up next week, you just got another batch of leads that week. And so you end up getting backlogged running follow-up appointments on last week's first appointments and leads while you're working this week's appointments. From a business standpoint, it's just inefficient and you're going to get real stressed out. Now, sometimes it's unavoidable. Like I get it occasionally where I get to the very end and I'm pulling up the application. The only time I ever get it is when I'm filling out the app and we get to the banking info and they're like, oh, shoot, can we follow up with you? And I already know, they weren't going to buy in the first place. And so, yes, I book a follow-up for next day or the day after, but I'm not putting all my eggs thinking this is going to be a sale.
Sure.
Sometimes it is, but I don't really strive for that.
Don't spend 80% of your time chasing 20% of your business, right? And that's the thing there. And, I think for this, it's a reframing. Brian from Giant had talked about this past week. It's reframing of how we think when we run appointments. I think the best agents that do what we do run appointments with a heart of, I'm just here to help a family. I loved it. He didn't call himself a salesperson. I never thought of myself as a salesperson. I thought of myself as this family needs our help or I wouldn't be talking to them. I mean, they initiated some form of contact with our company in regards to a policy that I have the ability as a licensed agent in that state to help that family. So it was always a reframing of my mind. And for me, I always was passionate about helping people when I sit with them the first time. And the reason is I always thought back to my individual situation with my father. My father died in a car accident on a Sunday morning. And when I was 10 years old, and me and my sister, we lost the house. We lost everything. We lost, something he had built so many years for. And I just thought, if I'm running the appointment on my father, or an agent was running an appointment with my father on Friday night, and what good would it do for them to follow up with him Monday? Like, what good would it do? And so I just said, this was 9 years ago in the business. I just said, you know what? I'm never going to call somebody back because I don't believe in the product enough to help that family if I don't do it when I'm sitting with them the first time. It's me. It's my fault. It's the way I think about the business. And so I just said, I'm not going to do it. If Robert Bowles said, hey, no, we're going to think about it, I'd say, Robert, what's there to think about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a guy who was last week, and you guys may judge me for doing this, but
judge you, man.
Put it out there. I read an appointment on a guy who makes $130,000 a year. Showed him an option that he picked. I never push an option. Showed him an option that he picked. It was like $100,000, like $65 a month. We fill out the whole thing. He was getting coverage for his wife, and then we get to the end. He's like, I think I need a couple days to think about it. And I'm like, dude, you make 130 grand a year. Granted, I don't know what all your bills are, but you need to think about whether or not covering your wife is worth $60. He's like, yeah, I need a couple days. I'm like, okay, I'm not expecting a call back from you, but if you want this, you let me know. I'm not calling you back. And it was maybe I ran that appointment wrong, but I could tell he didn't really believe in this thing. Because I also meet with people who live on Social Security and pick an option that costs $300 a month. And so the question I asked him was, do you really need to think about this? Because if it's important to you, if you need a couple of days, like I get it, work it into your budget, do what you need to do. But I've got other families I'm helping next week. And so I'm not going to go out of my way to do this if you're not wanting to do it right now. If you really want this, here's my number. Here's a copy of my business card. Take a screenshot of it. Please, like I want to help you. But if you want this, I want you to call me. And I'm busy enough and I have enough posture to where I'm not chasing people for a policy I'm going to make $400 on. Like yeah. I'm not thinking about the money. I don't calculate the premium until I submit the app, but I'm not trying to chase people. I'm too busy to where if they're not serious about it, that's taking away time that I could be with somebody who is actually serious about it. And that's the way I view it. If I'm talking to somebody who's wasting my time and they know they're not going to buy, but they're filling out an app with me, and then they're going to give me to think about it because they're not really serious about it. The way I view that is I could have spent this last hour with somebody who really needs my help. And that's just what it is. And so he may call me today. I told him, if you want this, call me on Monday. If not, if I don't hear from you, I'll take it. You found something different. And that's just what I did.
Well, and I think that's a good way to think about it is you have other families to go help, because you do. We all have these resources of families that we can go help, called leads, that we can go out and take care of somebody else. So I think that's a healthy posture. One of the 3 reasons people say, and this is something we've all been trained about over the years, I want to think about it. Number 1, they don't like you. They don't like the person that's run the appointment on them. You know what? Found a ton of people over the years that didn't like me too. That's okay, right? Maybe I reminded them of somebody they didn't like, whatever. It just happens. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Next. Also, number two, they can't afford it. Maybe the thing that you're showing them is not affordable. So what I would always do is make it a way to go lower on the premium to still show them value of protecting their family. Number three is they don't understand it. They actually really don't fully comprehend what you're explaining. That's the three reasons. They don't like you, it's money, don't understand. So what I wanted to do is at least eliminate the money and the don't understand part and just realize sometimes, hey, they may have just had an argument with each other before I got there. And guess what? It doesn't matter how great my presentation is, it's not going to happen. Right. But hey, it is what it is. It's also the reason Elijah Crujo runs 16 to 19 appointments a week. So he can submit about half that in applications per week. Right, Elijah?
Yeah.
It's about what it works out to be.
It's what it does. Exactly. And if you look at the number of applications, now last week was a low week, but I've been averaging somewhere between 7 and 12 apps per week. And so it's right on the money.
Right on the money, man.
Yep.
Yeah, right on the money. All right. So got one, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and get into critical period concept, that concept real quick and go from there. I want to handle that critical period concept, why you think it's important, how it helps, and how it adds value to families.
Yeah. So the critical period concept is the best tool to add to your insurance agent utility belt that will pay you this week. This week. Essentially, what it is it is a concept to write mortgage protection on people who don't qualify for term products. And so if you get a lead and you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, this couple is 72 years old and they've got COPD and on disability and all this stuff, and they've got arthritis, there's not a chance they're going to qualify for strong foundations with Foresters or home certainty with AMAM. Not a chance. What am I going to do? What a lot of new agents do is they'll still apply them for that policy, not knowing that they're going to get declined. And so what critical period is it is a way to still help that family with mortgage protection. And so the way that I do it, if you don't know kind of what it is basically it's a whole life policy. Some people use a small term that instead of paying off the home or paying down the home, it buys that family time. And so the way I explain it is exactly how the presentation explains it when I'm running a Zoom appointment. And so it shows on the options slide, it shows the full payoff, the partial, and then option 3 is equity protection. Some people refer to it as critical period. I like explaining it to my clients as the mortgage protection payment plan. Equity protection confuses people. Critical period confuses even more people sometimes. So the mortgage protection payment plan is, I got that recommendation from a client they were like, you should call it this because critical period is confusing. And I'm like, I like that. We'll do that next time. And so the way I explain it to people, and I'm going to plug my laptop in here real quick, is I say it's the mortgage protection payment plan. And I give them all the disclosures right out the gate. I said, now this option does not pay off the whole home. It's the cheapest of all 3. Typically, this is for folks who are 65, living on a fixed income. Maybe they've got some health issues. What this option does is it buys your family time. And the way it works is if something happened to you, Chris, God forbid, this would get Lauren maybe like 2 years, a year, maybe 6 months worth of mortgage payments. And that's important because if something were to happen to you, your lender is not coming asking for the whole home to be paid for. They're wanting that next month's payment. And so this option gets them time to figure out what to do, to sell the home if needed, refinance if needed. And so I can show you all 3. Which one do you think fits the need best? That's the question I ask. They always say option 3 because when I portray it, I explain them all. If Chris, say you were like 68 years old, you had COPD or cancer 5 years ago, something like that. I always say like option A is the full payoff. This one is pretty hard to qualify for as you get older. Or I say as you get older, it gets pretty expensive. Sometimes as much as a mortgage payment I've seen. Depending on your health, it can be pretty hard to qualify for. Option 2 is a little bit different. The only difference is it's less coverage, so it's cheaper. Now option 3, and then I fully explain it. And so I let them pick. I say, so of these three, which one do you think fits the need best? They're like option three, because they know they can afford it. And
Mhm.
so they're looking for something that they can afford. Then what I do, I've already got my options worked up, because when I book the appointment with them, I look at their mortgage and I ask them, what is the payment you send to your lender each month? So if their payment is, say, $1,000, option A for 2 years worth of mortgage payments is a $24,000 policy. Just doing simple math. Whatever their payment is, I calculate it. If their mortgage is $3,000 a month, it's going to be real difficult to work up a 2 years worth of mortgage payments. But I take their mortgage. Option A is typically 2 years. Option B is a year. Option C is 6 months, 6 to 8 months, something like that.
Sure.
And the products that I normally use, because people who I'm working critical period for are normally older, retired, on a fixed income, sometimes they got serious health issues. I love American Amicable's Dignity Solutions, Mutual of Omaha Living Promise, sometimes Americo Eagle Premier, and then if they got a lot of health issues, United Home Life. I'm not trying to bash any carrier, but United Home Life is the slowest of any carrier I've worked with for simplified issue. And so I wouldn't recommend them as a first pick, but they're great for people who would otherwise get rated. United Home Life will get them a great rate. And so those are the 4 carriers that I normally use, but I pretty much it's AM all the way. Like I love American Amicable. I'm pretty much sticking with them. And here's the thing too, is when they pick an option, that is a micro commitment. They've already pretty much solidified, okay, I like option 3 for the mortgage protection payment plan. And when I show them the slide, I emphasize budget and I let them know, like, hey guys, so I understand you're living on a fixed income. I specialize in working with people on a fixed income. The reason I say that is literally more than half of my business is critical period stuff. Like Chris, you see when I'm submitting apps all the time, it's a mortgage protection policy, but it's Dignity Solutions.
Yep.
It's an $8,000 face amount policy, but it got that family 8 months worth of mortgage payments. And so I got a micro commitment on the option that they picked. And so now I am not focusing at all on the full or the partial payoff. I don't mention it again because it's irrelevant at this point. And so then I show them the slide. And the way that I do it is I put option 1, 2 years worth of mortgage payments. And I put the premium, and then option 2, a year's worth, the premium, option 3, 6 months or 8 months, whatever it is. I don't go into the weeds of this policy is worth 24,000. This policy is worth 12. This policy is worth 6. You can, but if you do, you're going to get a lot of think about it. The reason is you're making it more complicated than it needs to be.
I don't understand. Yeah.
You don't understand. And you're saying, wait, this policy gets me 2 years, but it's 24,000. It's like a lot of the people you're working with, they're older. They're not like, you're making it more complicated than it needs to be. And so one of the things you taught me, Chris, was it's not what it is, it's what it does. And so I'm not saying this policy is worth 24,000. I said this policy is on a whole life basis. It kicks in and pays out whenever something happens to you, God forbid, whether that's now or whether you're 100 years old. I say the only time it doesn't help you if you plan on living past 120, which I don't know many people doing that nowadays. And I say, get your wife 2 years worth of payments, or gets her a year or 6 months. Here's the question I ask is I go through the options. I very simply say, this is the plan. This is the premium. I don't skirt around price because I'm not scared about it. And then I say, which one fits the need and the budget best? And then I shut up. I say, which one fits the need and the budget best?
Yeah.
And they almost always pick one right on the spot.
Yep. Yeah. And, a lot of you guys may ask me, it's like, well, do I see Elijah's business the way he's doing it? Is it profitable? Well, he has an issue rate. I think your issue rate of what you submit is around 80 or 90%. Is that correct? Would that be a fair assessment?
It's written, I'm getting stuff declined. And if I do, I get it rewritten with another.
Right. And if he does, yeah. And I think that's a valuable point. So, so some of you brand new people, one of the most common things to do is get excited. You submit a new app and you get it declined. Well, figure out why you got it declined and learn from that experience. That's not a death sentence. Just resubmit it and get it approved. I think, Elijah, you probably do this. I know I did this. If I'm out there and I'm running appointments on a client, I go, Val, if for any reason this policy doesn't go through for any reason, you don't get approved, I don't want you to worry about it. I'm not going to give up on you and your family. And that's the way I did it. And guess what? I followed through with that. So if they did get declined, if I didn't write them through the right product, or maybe they didn't disclose all the medications to me correctly or something, then I just went out and rewrote them. And I figured out why he got declined. So the next time I had a client with that similar situation, just didn't redo that. So I had less work to do the next time I did it. In other words, I learned from my experience. My experiences weren't a death sentence, because a lot of new people that come out here, they get excited, they'll submit a few apps, and they're like, oh man, it got declined. And it's like, well, what's our percentage decline? I figured out, and you have already figured out, Elijah, as long as me, the agent, slots it correctly, and the client told me the correct information, they didn't lie to me, about 100% on approval rate. What do you think, buddy?
Yep. And I'm writing simplified issue stuff. And so it's simple, it's quick. Half the time it's instant decision. That's why I like AmAm's Dignity Solutions so much.
Yeah.
Because it tells me right there if they got approved on the spot or rated.
Right.
And then you can pivot. Same thing with Living Promise, with Mutual of Omaha, same thing with Americo.
Yeah.
And so like, do yourself a favor and write simple products and present it in a simple way, because when it comes to insurance, you got to think about, what is this like for the person you're meeting with? Most people already have this preconceived idea that insurance is complicated. I'm going to deal with a sleazy salesman and it's expensive. All of those things are optional and most of the time not true. And so if you can be simple and straightforward, you've already crossed off the sleazy salesman assumption. If you show them a variety of options, I can't tell you how many times I call somebody who's old and they've got some health issues, and they said, yeah, we already talked to somebody, we're not interested. And the question I ask him is, okay, did they show you one of those really expensive options that's $300-400 a month, something like that? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's exactly why I'm calling. They didn't show you this option. And I book an appointment with them and I write critical period.
Right.
And so that slashes the price assumption off. And then the complex thing, a lot of agents will get into the weeds and read all the freaking disclosures and stuff and exclusions. And it's like, dude, that doesn't matter. What does the product do? How much does it cost? What company is it with? And who do they call if they have questions? If they have the 4 answers to that, like, you're golden. And so I love critical period because I don't know what it is, man, but I get along more with my elderly clients than I do like young people. I don't know what it is. I just click with them better. And so I'm able to build a relationship better. And a lot of these people, they're like, during quarantine, like, think about this too for a second. A lot of these people don't have somebody to talk to. And so you may need to pivot during your appointment and just focus on building relationship with that person. That pays serious dividends. And then when you make the product really simple for them to understand, like, you're going out of your way to do right by that client. And that's why I love critical period, because a lot of these people were overlooked by other insurance companies, man. And it's sad because they don't have anything. And this is a simple product that makes the world of difference for that family. And so another question I always ask them when you're working up the options, if they're ever trying to figure out which one to pick, I ask them, all right, Chris, well, God forbid if something happened to you, how much time do you think Lauren would need to sell the house? Do you think she'd be able to keep it? Would she be able to manage? Or if she were to sell it, how much time do you think she would need?
Right.
And you'd say something like, well, houses here are flying off the market. She could sell it in 6 months. I'm like, well, great. This is what a 6-month option would cost, $40.
And I want everybody to recognize what he's doing there, because he's emotionalized exactly why I filled out the form and sent it in. Because, the most common response, well, I just want to see how much it costs. Well, the reason the person's saying that, it's the same as any of you walking on a car dealership and the very first salesperson that comes up to you, say, well, I'm just looking. No, you're not looking. If you find the right car at the right price, you're probably unless you just have a joy of walking around car dealerships, you're probably going to go there to buy something. It's the same thing when people fill out these forms, but the first reaction typically is not the truth. Well, I just want to see how much it costs. Yes, they want to see how much it costs because they got to be able to afford it. We all know that. There's a humanistic value to that. But I just ask all of you, what you've got to do is dive deeper and see if you're asking the questions that actually get the real responses out of them. Yeah, Elijah, I know that, but are you married right now?
No, not yet. Get married
Okay.
next year.
Okay, but you have a home, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm running an appointment. Okay. You said you're getting married pretty soon. When you getting married?
Yeah, in the spring, man.
Oh, spring. Okay. So what's your fiance's name?
Her name's Maggie.
Maggie. Okay. So if I'm hearing this right, so if we look at this, you're wanting to make sure, and you tell me, is it Maggie that you're wanting to protect in case something happens to you?
Absolutely. I want to make sure if something happens, she's not going to need to move back in with her parents if she don't want to. And also in the future when we have kids. I don't know where Chris went. I think he just got kicked off here. Did he just bounce? I think Tina, go help him. I guess I'll pick it up. Or Betsy, you're in the office with him too. Somebody go flag down Chris. He's probably flipping out. But yeah, so emotion is, it doesn't change how I bring emotion out, whether I'm talking with somebody who is going with a straight up simple mortgage protection plan or critical period. One thing that I do too, if you guys wanted to jot this down, I started doing this recently, but if they're under 71, one of the things that I add in is an accidental policy to their mortgage protection payment plan. And so what I'll do is say they pick the 12 months worth of mortgage payments. I put in the presentation 12 months worth of mortgage payments plus full accidental payoff. So really I'm writing two apps, an accidental policy with Mutual of Omaha, and then it's technically a final expense policy, but it's a whole life for mortgage protection payment plan. And I let them know, like, if something happens to you in terms of an accident, the whole house is paid for. But if something health related happens, your wife has 12 months worth of mortgage payments. And when I show them that, they're like, wow, like this is great. Now, if you're new and you're thinking that that's going to make it more complicated, then just stick with the straight up 12 months or 2 years, a year, and 6 months worth of payments. If they've got a really big mortgage, by big mortgage, I mean like something more than like $2,500, it's going to be difficult to do a 2 years worth of mortgage payments. So if they've got a really big one, I'm working out like 12 months, 8 months, and 6, something like that. And sometimes you'll have to tweak. Like I've shown people the 6-month option. They're like, that's just too much. And I'm like, okay, well, good news is we can tweak it a little bit. Let's see what 3 to 5 months looks like. And I let them know at the end of the day, it's going to help your family putting something in place more than putting nothing. And so like there are times I'll write a policy and it's like a $3,000 face amount policy. You'd look at that and be like, that's tiny. But what that means is if something happens to one of the spouses, they're not burdened with that mortgage for 3 months. That's a long time. I mean, it doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're grieving the loss of a loved one, that makes a big difference. And so it's a great tool to add to your belt. Chris's computer is, I see. Gotcha. Technical difficulties. So are there any, is the chat box enabled? I don't think so. I want to make sure that if there are questions people have got pertaining to critical period, I'll answer. But before I do, like Val, if some of your people or if any of the key leaders have questions from their agents, just text it to me. But a couple of trainings I'd highly recommend that I went through that helped me kind of refine this process are within Quility University. There's Fast Track. And in Fast Track, there's a final expense critical period training that Brandon Ellison does. Highly recommend you do that. And then in SoundCloud, there's 2 trainings that are just fire for the critical period concept. In SoundCloud, John Ziller does one. And so just download the SoundCloud app, search Symmetry Financial Group, and scroll down a little bit. It's titled Presenting the Critical Period Concept. And then Cicely and Ayers Newsom also did one in SoundCloud, and it's titled Critical Questions for Critical Period. If you listen to those 3, like you can, it's very simple. It's not a complicated process. If you listen to those 3, they will make a game changer in how profitable you are and how many more families you help each week.
Love it, buddy. Yeah, love it, man. So one thing, sorry guys, my computer forgot to, guess it needs electricity or something. I forgot to plug it up, so it went dead on me. So that's me. Apparently you have to plug that sucker up every now and then. So anyway, critical period concept. And I'll say this, let's make, because sometimes when we're brand new, we tend to overthink this business. And what I would say here is, because a lot of people, man, I just need more product training, Well, the only way you're ever really going to learn the products is by actually doing the appointments and really going out and doing the process. Now you got the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 system that we've taught everybody. Make sure you guys stick to that. But I would say, I'm going to give you product training. Mentor told me this years ago, and everybody get ready, because this is pretty phenomenal product training I'm getting ready to give you. Like, it's going to really blow your mind type product training. Okay. So I know everybody's on the tip of their thing with this one right here. So if the client that we're sitting in front of and we write a policy on them passes away, the company that we represent pays them to a beneficiary. Product training over with. Think about it, Elijah. Is it any more complicated than that?
Nope. It's really not.
So you are now anointed as an expert in the field of mortgage protection insurance. You can now, all you got to do now is run 16, 15 plus appointment Zoom sessions a week, and you can also go out and help a tremendous amount of families. Now, he gave you great questions for you guys to ask, but just realize it is that simple. And in the history of the earth, guess what? Everybody passes away, so everybody needs your product. 100% of the time, they need your product. Not 99%, not 99.8%. 100% of the time, the people that you are representing need your product. And it's as complicated as when they pass away, it's going to pay to their beneficiary. Whoever they love and care about, that's what it's going to take care of. That is a win-win-win situation for you as a licensed person in this industry. So keep it that simple, folks. I loved, Elijah, what you talked about earlier. Just remember this: it's not what it is. What it is an insurance policy. It's what it does. If I'm sitting in front of Elijah, I'm talking about Maggie and it taking care of his fiance, because Elijah will be passed away. Elijah does not care about it. It's just a bill to him. But what he does care about is Maggie. And if I took care of Maggie as an agent sitting in front of him and I got him focused on what was important, well, guess what? He's going to do it because he's thinking correctly about it. He's not confused. He probably likes me a little bit better because I got him focused on the right thing. And the money's not an issue because it's not a bill to him. It is simply what it does. It's taking care of Maggie. Y'all with me? That's a humanistic part of what we do. And the reframing of your mind is you're not selling insurance policies. You're just helping people get what they already said they wanted. It's all anybody out there is doing. It's all you're ever doing. And you're not bugging people when you call them. They already asked you to call them. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I reframed years ago. Me making calls on the phone was not that difficult because I reframed it. It's like, no, they're looking for me to call them. Why wouldn't I call them? All I got to do is get a hold of them, right? So
another big thing too, Chris, is you see the importance in what it is you do. And so I think a lot of people who don't push past those barriers of rejection or difficulty, they don't see how important what it is we do is. And then they let somebody telling them no, or yelling about them, or a decline policy, or somebody being rude or mean saying I'm not interested. They let that dictate whether or not they'll book 16 appointments a week or 4. Because the reality is, I know how important what I do is because I've seen what happens when people don't have this product. And you and I just experienced a death that hit very close to home. Now, the beauty is we work in the insurance industry. And so we have the ability to alleviate the financial stress that is put on a family when something like that happens. And so I would encourage anybody, if your activity is not commensurate with what we're saying you should do, if you want to get this result. Now, if you're part-time, it's different, but if your activity is here and what we're saying to get the results that I'm getting are here, I would ask yourself, do you realize how important what what your job is. Like what your insurance license does for people is it allows you to preserve people's financial future for their family after they're gone. It's not a term policy. That prevents a family from not being homeless when they die. Like it's not just a number. It's, is this family going to need to create a GroupMe, or not a GroupMe, a GoFundMe page and share it on Facebook? Like, I can't tell you how many times I scroll through Facebook and I see, help this family. Their father passed away in an accident. They just need $8,000 to bury him. Like, how hard is it going to be to keep calling people when you get a no, when you realize if you don't call somebody, this might end up just like that Facebook post? And so I have a really like clear view of how important what we do is. And so it's not difficult for me to dial for 8 hours a week. And if it is really difficult, I would just say, come to grips with what your insurance license enables you to do for people and how many people are asking for our help. In the last month, I've gotten over 120 leads personally. That's just me. And I haven't even had time to get to them all yet. And so it's like, I have to make that many calls, because if I don't, those people aren't getting helped. I don't know how many of these forms people filled out. And although I may know how important what we do is, a lot of them don't realize it. And so when we ask, back to the questions-based selling, when we ask those questions, it helps them see how important this is. And if you don't grasp how important what we do is, you deserve to get a think about it.
Yeah, it's just that reframing, guys. It's all we ask. Reframe what you think you do. You change people's lives. You realize that, and you get paid to change people's lives. Reframing that, to me, was always certainly very special to me, because it took me from an insurance sales position to a help position, and it helped me help a lot of people. And I know young Elijah's done as well. Hey, appreciate everybody. Elijah, certainly appreciate your time this morning. I know it's very, very, very valuable. Everybody let Elijah know how much you greatly appreciate it on GroupMe. And once we have this recording completed, I'll have it up and on GroupMe. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today, buddy. Appreciate everybody out there.
Let's go
Have a
help
great week.
this week, guys. Seriously.
Let's go get it. All right, buddy. See ya.